This guy has all the answers. He went to Duke. He knows all the answers to all the tests. You never cheated off anybody's paper, did you, Seth Davis?
I'm sorry, I got a bad connection here. What'd you say?
Of course you went to. Who was the star?
That presupposes that I went to class.
Okay.
So you have to be in the class to cheat off.
Is it hard? Is it harder to just get into Duke than it is to stay at Duke?
Well, it's impossible now. I mean, the Seth Davis of 1988 would have no chance to get into Duke now.
Really?
So my sons are screwed
in
that respect, and certainly I haven't given them any money, so that's not going to help with that affiliation. So, no, I don't know if it's hard to stay there so much as, you meet a lot of sort of, type A high-achieving people that you circulate, your fraternity brothers, your classmates, and obviously me being there during the Christian Laettner era, I was there. They went to 4 Final Fours. They played in 3 final games, and they won it twice, so...
What was his
stuck with college basketball?
What was Laettner's reputation among fellow students?
I'm sorry, I got a bad connection here. You want to get another question or what?
Wow.
I'm kidding. Laettner was Laettner. I mean, he was certainly
what does
out.
That
he
mean?
was very social. It means everything. I mean, he wasn't disarming. I mean, I was in the same dorm with him my freshman year. I always liked him, and I still like him, and I don't see him a whole lot. But it was like, you were going to kind of engage with him on his terms. My freshman year, we were in the same dorm, and he would just stay all night downstairs playing ping pong and just crushing everybody at ping pong. You can imagine the wingspan and talking trash about it. So he was a lot of fun to be around him. And he was definitely, all those guys were very much, they were at parties. You were at class with them. People don't realize how small of a school Duke is, about 5,000 to 6,000 undergrads. So everybody kind of knows each other. So, and he was a very good basketball player.
Do you think he's underrated?
No. That documentaries made about him.
But not about his greatness. It's about his personality. It was more about, when your documentary is, I hate Christian Laettner.
Right.
It feels like it's more his personality and the emotion that he brought out in people.
I do think Christian can be likable. I don't think it has ever been all that important to Christian to be likable. I mean, he's older now. And that arrogance that, he carries all the time certainly helped him on the basketball court. So, there are legions of stories about, how he was around his teammates. He went out of his way to be mean to Bobby Hurley. Was it like he was toughening Bobby Hurley up, or was he just being Christian? Grant Hill, I think, was pretty nice to Bobby Hurley. But that was his personal makeup. And he was all about winning Laettner. And Krzyzewski loved him from the beginning. Those two had a karmic connection. Krzyzewski understand. He always said about Laettner, he's this burning flame. He can heat your house, or he can burn it down. And so he loved that competitive spirit. So, Christian's been out there. I think everything that you think about Christian is true. I think his public persona is pretty much the Christian that I know, for better or worse, and everything in between.
But you also have players. It's going to be hard to replicate greatness from a team perspective for a player. Because I don't know if Laettner would have stayed all 4 years.
Correct.
These kids aren't staying 4 years. So when you're trying to put them into a category, it's almost like you have to separate it decade by decade.
Yes.
Nobody's going to come.
That's true for everything, right? It's like, how do you compare Tiger versus Jack? Well, the Tiger have more, competition. I think you're absolutely correct. You need to evaluate in each era. I think the watershed moment for that was Kevin Garnett, 1995. Went straight from high school. I think he was the 5th pick in the draft. And he'd been the first high school player to do that. And I remember being at Sports Illustrated at the time and saying that we should do – I remember interviewing the top 20 kids in high school, one of whom was Kobe Bryant. I called him at his house. And I said, does what Kevin Garnett did make you more inclined to try to go straight to the NBA or leave college early, or maybe only stay 1 or 2 years? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, I want to go to the NBA as soon as possible because I don't want Michael Jordan to get too old. I want to play against him when he's young enough. And for some reason, that stuck with me. So yeah, it's a lot harder now. It's a lot harder to be that good. If you're that good, you're not staying until your senior year. And Duke was really the last school to lose guys. Elton Brand left after his sophomore year. He was the #1 pick in the draft. He was the first guy really as an underclassman to take that route, and obviously now they're all leaving.
I was at a Cleveland sports banquet. So they had their yearly sports banquet in Cleveland. LeBron James is a senior in high school. A guy comes up to me and he says, hey, I hosted it, and he said, would you talk to LeBron? He's not sure if he's going to go to college or he's going to go pro. So, now you're thinking, of course he's going pro and he wasn't going to go college. But I said, have you reached out to Kobe and have you reached out to Kevin Garnett? And he said, yes. And I said, well, there's your answer. If they feel like you're ready to go, then go. And now it's 15 years ago and you're going, well, it seems stupid that you would even think that he would go 1 year. Imagine if LeBron went to college for 1 year.
It'd be pretty good, and it calls.
Where was he? Was he leaning towards any place? Like Ohio State.
It never got, and it was so obvious. I remember being at ABCD camp in New Jersey the summer before LeBron's junior year. I'd never heard of him before I got there, but by the time I got there, it was like the second day. Everybody was talking about him. I was right there for the game when he crossed over Lenny Cook, and Lenny Cook fell down because Lenny Cook was the great recruit out of New York, but. Dan, it's funny to me when people say, like, well, one and done is ruining college basketball. I try to remind people, before one and done, there was none and done, right? So LeBron and Kobe, all those guys went straight to the league. So was it better for college basketball this season to have Marvin Bagley and DeAndre Ayton at Duke and Arizona or with the Knicks and the Lakers? So, I'm personally in favor of everybody doing whatever they want to do. I don't understand why it's a problem. If the Boston Celtics want to draft a 13-year-old eighth grader and pay him $1 million and develop him and put him in the G League or whatever, why is that a problem for me? I got 3 kids of my own. I got enough problems, So I don't understand why it's such great consternation.
Well, soccer does this.
Yeah, everybody does it. We're talking about, 3 to 5 kids a year.
I know.
And everybody talks about it all the time. So I'm like, everybody should be able to get whatever they want. Obviously, there are plenty of examples of people who have gone straight from high school into the league who have succeeded, and there are plenty of people who left early and made bad decisions, stayed too long in college, made bad decisions. Everyone should be entitled to make their own mistakes.
Could Zion Williamson go right to the pros now?
No question. No, he's just physically ready. He's like Dominique Wilkins, not quite as tall, still developing his skill set. If anything, it would probably benefit him to go to the pros now, because if you go to college, you can get exposed. So a lot of times it's about striking the iron when the iron is hot. So every year there's maybe 4 or 5 kids coming out of high school who could legitimately benefit by going straight to the NBA. And if that's what they want, I'm fine with it.
And I'm with you on that, because I'd rather see you for 1 year than not to get to see you at all. And I know it just feels like this is generational. It's somebody who's over 40 years of age who has a problem with the one and done. What are you doing to March Madness? And, there's no continuity with basketball, and it's harder to follow. And whereas before you'd say, boy, I can't wait to see that guy next year with the recruits coming in. And Kentucky is the classic example. Imagine some of those kids who are able to play with some of the other kids being brought in. I'm all for free marketplace. But, Billis talks about this, and Jay will join us tomorrow. He's sort of saying, open it up. Highest bidder, you want to bring in kids and you want to pay them and, whatever you want to do. I don't know if we're ever going to get there, but something's going to happen soon, it feels like, with college basketball in the NBA.
Well, a couple things. First of all, in terms of, March Madness is going to be fine. And look at March Madness. The Final Four we have here, I think of the 4 teams, we just ran a mock draft at The Athletic yesterday. I think there's only 2 kids at the Final Four in the first round of that mock draft, Devontae Graham and Mikal Bridges of Villanova.
Not Wagner?
He's borderline.
Okay.
He's borderline.
Yeah.
Brunson is borderline. I know that Brunson's a pro. I think he got a good chance.
Yeah.
I think Svi Mikhailik's got a very good chance because of the way he shoots it. But all of these guys had the option of turning pro before and declined to do it because it wasn't available to them. So this idea that if you get rid of one and done, March Madness is great. College basketball is very healthy. To Jay's point, Jay makes a lot of very good points in terms of making it more market sensible. First of all, they have to build a new paradigm for agents. Agents are to college basketball what steroids have been to baseball. They're everywhere. And so we need to bring that out in the open. And I think this commission that Emmert put together, the Condi Rice Commission, they say they're going to come up with bold proposals. Now, their definition of bold and our definition of bold might be a little bit different. But I know they're going to want to open up the agents, and maybe there's professional affiliations like they do in some of these other sports, baseball in particular, and maybe even financial transactions in the form of legal loans. Now you're bringing taxes and other regulations into it. So there's always going to be a black market for this stuff. But I draw a very clear line at this idea that you got to pay these guys. First of all, they already are getting compensated quite well, okay? They get tuition, they get books, they get food. And don't tell me that don't mean nothing. I mean, I'm stressing saving for my kids' education. Don't tell me that an education is not worth anything. But if you want to take the education out of it, and if they have aspirations to be a professional, how about their professional training? How about the kids who are here at the Final Four in terms of coaching and training and game experience and marketing? And then I laugh at this, and I'm friends with these guys, Jay Williams and Jalen Rose. Oh, the players should boycott. Both those guys played in the Final Four, and neither of them boycotted. Can you imagine working your whole life and dreaming of playing in the Final Four and summer conditioning and fall workouts and all this and sweating with your teammates and your brothers, and you win this, like Kansas wins this incredible game over Duke, and now someone's going to get them together and say, let's boycott so we can get more money. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But they're not going to see that money. It's going to be who knows how many years down the road before, maybe another school or these schools would get that. So these kids, they
want to play in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to play in the Final Four?
All of a sudden,
that one-year-old kid who just saw Perloff make the only three-point shot of his life. By the way, that was not a swish. That's what we now bounce. That's what we now call that a Sister Jean bounce. Okay, it pops around and goes in.
Really?
Grayson Allen did not get the Sister Jean bounce.
Oh,
happens.
I see.
It happens.
If Loyola wins the national title, ...
Unprecedented, incredible.
Anything in college basketball come close to that?
I'm a little bit in the weeds on this, all right? I'm a basketball nerd. I wrote about this today. They are a really good team. They are a legitimately really good team. What they are doing in the tournament is what they've done all season long. They went 32-5. 3 of their losses came when their best player, Clayton Custer, who was the Conference Player of the Year, was hurt. So 3 of the 5 with an injury. They won their league by 4 games. They had a scare early in the conference tournament, but they ended up winning the championship game by 16 points. They eviscerated a pretty good Kansas State team that finished 4th in the Big 12. So this idea that they're Cinderella, I mean, to me, again, I'm a basketball nerd, but obviously the story, first of all, they'd be the lowest seeded team ever to win the championship. The tie-in with the 1963 team. So it would be, it's hard for me to say unprecedented. I don't know if it's as unprecedented as when they won it in 63.
What's the biggest upset of all time? And it's not Villanova over Georgetown.
It's not Villanova over Georgetown?
No,
you wouldn't say that?
No. Because they played twice during the year.
We're talking about a championship game upset. Well, Villanova's the lowest seeded team to win the championship.
But if you saw those games when they played in the regular season, they were close games.
They were close games. This is what I'm talking about. We're talking about storylines and narratives versus the truth.
NC State that felt like a larger upset because of how great Houston was.
I would back up and say, what was the most unlikely champion, as opposed to a championship game upset? I mean, how do you even measure that? Is it by the point spread? I don't even know the answer to that, quite frankly. I mean, again, I think 66 Texas Western might be kind of a benchmark, but back then we maybe didn't realize how good these teams were.
Well, they were that was an athletic team. They had a great Hall of Fame coach in Don Haskins.
Right.
It's just we didn't know about them. Right. There's a difference of not knowing.
That's exactly right. And we didn't know about Loyola unless you're a nerd like I am who follows this stuff all year. I mean, I've been watching these guys all year. Listen, they played in December and they won at Florida. True road game. In Gainesville, won at Florida. And at the time, we were like, oh, man, Florida's just had these great wins. Like, what's wrong with Florida? So you kind of paid attention to these guys, and they just kept winning. I'm a big believer that winning is a habit. But
who are you picking?
Villanova. I've had Villanova from the beginning of the tournament.
And they're playing who?
And they are playing Michigan in the final. I still think Virginia has a chance.
You do?
I am not giving up on the Cavaliers. Their defense, and they have an injury to overcome. But
wait, did you pick Virginia at the beginning?
I had Virginia.
Oh, that's right. You had the lock that Virginia was winning, right?
Yeah, too soon.
They're opening.
Too soon.
Sorry, Seth.
Too soon. They love me on Twitter.
Yeah, they do. We love you too, Seth.
Congratulations on your Emmy.
Thank you, Seth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you guys believe him about the team thing over the individual thing? Because I didn't believe him. Didn't. That's okay.
No, you should.
He said it like he meant it.
No,
look at these guys.
That's the real deal.
I know how hard these guys work.
That's yes, and there's nothing better than being able to share it. I mean, it's nice to get nominated individually, but I got to share it with 50 people yesterday. That's great.
Well, I will say this in the wake of you leaving the NBC deal. As someone in the industry, sort of trying to forge my own path, the moves that you've made. Leaving the mothership and creating. I know how hard it was for you to create this show and the risks of doing that. And these guys believed in you. And I know that it was touch and go for a while. So the fact that you guys are rewarded in that way, I hope you win. I don't know who else is nominated, but I hope I know I'm not. I've never been nominated for Emmy. I got to work on that. Can I be part of the?
You went to Duke. Shut up.
Can I be? Hold on a second. I've guest hosted. I've been a guest a million times. Am I not part of the Emmy experience?
No? Reggie Miller is the 5th Danette.
Okay.
Because he coined them the Danettes.
That works.
Yes.
That works for me.
Seth, thank you. It's always
I love
great
you, Dan
to see
Patrick.
you.
I love the Danettes.
Seth Davis.
Enjoy the Final Four.
CBS and The Athletic. And,
yes, sir.
And many, many, many books.
Many things.
That he's
Weddings and bar mitzvahs, too.
Yeah.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.